I'm sure you've heard the song, "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year," especially around this time of year. And I've noticed that a lot of times people play that song over basically like sarcastic moments, such as what I'm thinking is Jingle All the Way right now, where they're shopping and everybody's fighting over the packages and they play that song and stuff. Um, and it just kind of got me thinking that this time of year can be a beautiful, wonderful time of year. My favorite thing about this time of year is the lights. I love to go see Christmas lights and to just see the beauty of how people can decorate their yards at night with Christmas lights and just different Christmas themed things. I just absolutely love that. However, the holidays can also be very stressful and very hard for you personally. And that's kind of how it's been this year for me. It's just been really hard for me to get into the groove of doing art stuff. And so mainly I've been doing watercolor charts because that's something easy to do and quick. But this week I felt like getting away from the watercolor charts and doing something a little bit more of an illustration and kind of share with you what I do when things are not going according to plan, or you feel like you don't have a lot of time to do something, but you actually want to paint something. You don't want to do a chart, you don't want to do swatching, you actually want to complete a painting, but you just don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to be sharing with you my process of what I do when I don't have a lot of time, but I do want to complete a painting and work on my art during a time when there's not a lot of time. So let's go ahead and begin. So when I'm not in the mood to really work on a painting per se or a drawing, usually what I'll do is I'll look back into my old drawings or my old sketchbooks and find something that just piques my curiosity. If you're not good at drawing, look at coloring books. And just kind of skim through coloring books. You can do that as well. But for me, I like to go to old drawings, either that I've painted before or that I haven't painted before. And that's kind of where I got this drawing from. This particular drawing I drew last year, but I never got around to painting it. So what I do is I simply transfer this particular drawing to watercolor paper, and then what I do is kind of plan out. I like to do this on my iPad in Procreate, the app Procreate, but you can do it in your head. It's not that big of a deal. But I like to kind of plan out what colors I want to use for a particular drawing ahead of time. And then what I do is I lay out the most simplistic of colors that I can think of from my watercolor palette to use in this illustration. And basically what I'm going to do with this illustration is color it. So like I said earlier, look for coloring books. If you're a little bit intimidated with drawing, just look for coloring books and then transfer the drawing of that coloring book onto watercolor paper. And then instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to paint this gorgeous, wonderful painting, instead just go back to that childhood kind of feeling of, I'm just gonna color and have fun and do something that might not turn out that well, but at the same time, I'm just exploring my paints and I'm exploring what is put down on the paper. So that's what I did with this particular illustration. I didn't do a lot of shading. I didn't do a lot of detail work. I mainly just thought about coloring this particular illustration with one or two colors in blocks or sections. So you'll notice that I painted the raincoat that this fox is wearing yellow, and then I put kind of a little bit of a shading on top with a glazing technique. But I really didn't get into that much detail. I did the same thing with the scarf and also with his fur. But basically all I was doing was coloring with my watercolor paints. I think sometimes one of the pitfalls that we as creative people fall into is that every illustration that we approach has to be gorgeous and beautiful and has to be this supreme project. And instead of thinking of it that way, think of it as going back to your childhood and pulling out a coloring book or pulling out an old sketch and just taking a crayon and scribbling all over it. You can even go outside the lines and make it super impressionistic. Really, the whole point of this is to not make it perfect, but just awaken that creativity that's inside of you. And you probably noticed that I didn't do that good of a job on the Christmas wreath that the fox is holding. So I just decided to cover it up with some glitter. If you feel like something isn't going according to plan, how you would like it to go, remember once again, it's like a coloring sheet. So cover it up with markers or glitter or even felt. Think of something outside the box that you could use to cover up a mistake and just push through it. And here is my final finished painting. So this is a little fox holding a Christmas wreath that I put together. I really hope you enjoyed this particular video. This is kind of what I do when I am not in the mood to paint. I kind of just go about an illustration or a drawing as if it's a coloring sheet and kind of take a step back as if I'm a kid again. So hopefully you enjoyed this and this maybe awakened some creativity for you to do during this time of busy year. I hope you are having a wonderful holidays, whatever you are celebrating, and I'll see you next time, guys. Lots of love. Bye.